So let's talk about Kevin Durant and the things he said on Twitter last week that needs to be talked about. Because, in my opinion, he was right on the money. Now, some people are going to say, oh, you're hating on Jokic, you hate on the Nuggets, you don't like international players, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, you got to look at the context of what people say sometimes. Now, I want to bring some context into this conversation. So, there was a member of Players' Choice. You haven't seen their channel. There's always debates going on about the NBA. He was praising Serbia for their effort against Team USA. He was saying that they should be proud of themselves, that they shouldn't hang their heads low, and they did a phenomenal job pushing Team USA to the brink because that game was super close, and without the heroics of Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, and LeBron down the stretch, they would have never made it to the gold medal round. So what does Kevin Durant proceed to do? He responds with, where you're from, and Twitter just went crazy. They were thinking, oh, Kevin Durant, you're hating on Jokic. You don't like international players, blah, blah, blah. You're trying to just speak down on your opponent and yada, yada, yada. It was ridiculous, in my opinion. And I think sometimes when it comes to NBA discourse, there are some fans that get really, really emotional when it comes to their favorite players, that they can't be objective when you criticize their player. Let me give you a few examples here. The Boston Celtics is my favorite team. Now, do I think Jason Tatum is a top 5 player right now today? No, I do not. I still think Luka Doncic is better than him. Why do I say that? Because Luka Doncic's offense is more impactful than Jason Tatum's defense. Because there are times in the game where Jason Tatum is not available. He's not playing well. He's not showing up. And Luka has shown me enough to perform in the fourth quarter when it matters most. I'll give you another example. Michael Jordan, to me, is the greatest player ever. Who do I have as second? LeBron James. And I would defend LeBron James. And I will not try to tear him down in his accomplishments. That's what I see a lot on the internet. People just hate on LeBron James. I can love Michael Jordan. I can love LeBron James at the same time. I can criticize both players and still be okay with having Jordan first and LeBron second for valid reasons outside just the championships. But if you talk to an average fan that way, some of them get really defensive and call you a hater, call you, oh, you don't know basketball, and they come up with these dumb reasons of why you shouldn't talk at all. Because in my opinion, fans take things way too far. They're more of like fanatics, and they can't think with an objective mindset. They get so emotional when you criticize their favorite player. Like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about the sport. Why are you even talking in the first place? When I'm just trying to be objective. Now, are there going to be biases involved? Of course, I do acknowledge that. However, there's got to be a point where you can acknowledge the fact that, hey, this player is probably better than this player, and that's okay. We can have those conversations. So I want to show you what Kevin Durant had to say here, because I thought what he said was just brilliant stuff. This is what y'all do. Y'all clowns use players to push these corny agendas y'all got. This is a brotherhood, fam. You not part of. It's a problem now because social media got you clowns walking around with your chest out like you mean something. You don't. Your takes don't matter. And the part I don't like is the corny agendas. I've had shows where I've talked about Michael Jordan and LeBron James, and people get mad if I criticize Michael Jordan. People get mad if I criticize LeBron James. And the reason why people get so upset because they have their own agendas to push. If I say to you guys, Luka Doncic is the 5th best player in the NBA right now, some of you are going to be upset with that. And I have a reason for that. The reason is he has to still finish his career out. I still have on my top 5. I've got Jokic, I've got Curry, I've got LeBron, I've got Giannis ahead of him right now. Doesn't mean that can't change. That doesn't mean I'm hating on Luka Doncic. I think right now when it comes to Luka, the biggest thing that needs to happen for him is either he gets a supernova offense to hide his defense, or he becomes an average defender, because I think that's one of his weaknesses. Another thing is play style. I think he needs an offensive system like the Warriors to score at will, because there are times where there's too much isolation basketball going on in the basketball court. I think some of that comes down to coaching. I think also some of that comes down to Luka's play style. However, at the same time, Luka Doncic is an amazing basketball player. I am not going to hate on that guy. The guy is clutch. That step back he had in Rudy Gobert was absolutely disgusting. But that's not me hating on Luka Doncic. If you take that as hate, that's just someone being objective. I told you, I'm a Boston Celtic fan. I don't think Jason Tatum's better than him. The problem is people push these crazy agendas. I love Kevin Durant. He's my favorite player after Kobe Bryant. However, Kevin Durant has done nothing since leaving the Golden State Warriors. I will say that and not have any problem Because it's a fact. You can't leave Golden State and not do anything since you left the Warriors. Yes, you were great for the Nets. It's unfortunate you had that injury to James Harden and you had to Kyrie Irving. However, at the same time, you did not score a single point in overtime. Those are the facts. Another thing I liked what Kevin Durant had to say here is let's talk about the fan culture that's been created recently. A lot of huge egos who believe they are the reason for the advancement of a sport. A lot of idol worship, a lot of hate and division based off wins and losses, a lot of disrespect of the work being put in by these incredible athletes, mostly by people who don't know what it takes to be good at anything besides talking. Go do something and get out the way. And again, you see here, this fan here learned a lot about U.S. sports culture today from a guy saying, where you from? Okay. A lot of flexing for only just beating a nation of 6.6 million, a sport they invented, acting like Jokic fans are committing treason. I don't get how you interpret that tweet from Kevin Durant as hating on Jokic. Fans are just super sensitive sometimes. You can have your favorite player and you can defend him, but when it doesn't make sense, you sound dumb. You sound like you don't know what you're talking about anymore. You have to be objective when it comes to these NBA players. You can't just act like, oh yeah, you know what, they're always the best. Maybe not. And of course, the agendas that people push, they're trying to put SGA in that top 5. I'm not going to put him there right now. He needs to keep proving it time and time again. You had one good run this year. Can you repeat that same success? Because my concern is, what if SGA gets knocked out of the first round next year? What if OKC disappoints? Then we're having different conversations about him. I don't want to do that. I want to see him continue to get better because I think he's a top 10 player. There's no arguments for me. But I'm not going to push him above players like Tatum who have proven it over and over again. You might not like that answer, but that's just the truth. What if SGA goes up against the Celtics next year? People might say, oh, yeah, they have a super team. OKC is just as good as Boston. They have all the pieces in place. But if they lose to the Celtics, you're going to hear excuses about, okay, they're inexperienced. They weren't ready. They didn't have a better roster. When the thing is, you just lost. And if Tatum goes out there and shoots the ball better, he gets 27 points, and God forbid, SGA has 31. But the difference is Tatum is more versatile on defense. That's going to stand out. But to some fans, that won't, because all they look at is their stats and their offense. They don't look at the entire game and what the player brings to the game. So I love what Kevin Durant had to say. I think he's right on the money when it comes to fans' obsessions and pushing agendas and putting people on these pedestals a little too soon. The same thing with Anthony Edwards. I think he's going to be the face of this league. He is a phenomenal basketball player. But let's slow it down because I don't want to see a situation where Anthony Edwards has a moment in the playoffs. He fails and he gets clowned on and people start calling him a fraud. I don't want that to happen to Anthony Edwards because the same thing that happened to Tatum when they were trying to push him after he didn't perform well in the finals could also happen to Anthony Edwards a few years from now. It also could happen to SGA. So if your guy shrinks when it matters most, you can't defend that. You have to be objective. I was always on Tatum talking about, hey, man, you got to show up when it matters most. You haven't shot the ball well. I was going crazy in that game 6 against the Sixers last year. I was like, where did Tatum go? He completely disappeared. And then he showed up in the last 5 minutes. Thank God he did. I just think it's another good reminder that some fans take things a little too far. They get a little emotional. And the thing is, it's not that deep. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what Kevin Durant had to say about these fans on Twitter and how fans can be a little too much sometimes. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.